Okay. So we were here. Yes, so this has taken long to run.
A bit. A bit.
Let me wait a bit for this one to run. Now we have a stateful widget. We have converted this one to a stateful widget. So someone is begging pardon on why we should convert into a stateful widget. So I'm going to include one of that in this project, and then we shall see the reason why we need a stateful widget. So we have
How long you've been planning to shoot me?
so we have a surname, we have a given name, we have nationality, we have. So I'm going to add another button there, another input field there.
Maybe I could have not but I'm not in the morning I came for lunch and
Control C.
There was lunch at school. No, I said I came home for lunch.
Control E.
So no, I was there.
This one is taking longer to run. So I have created another text field, which I want to call. I'm going to give it a label of level, which is current level.
By the time you see me, you give me with interest.
Current
tomorrow I'll do that. Tomorrow I'll be there. Why? Okay, you give Paul when he's coming. Okay, I got put the opposite thing there. Mwalimu ukola sente. Did you work after the did they ask you?
So I'm waiting for this project to run. It is taking long. Because some of you are not here in the previous sessions, I want you to see what we had before. Let me first leave it to its default. So this is taking long. Well, let me see what is taking place there. First close this. I also stop this and then I run it again. It is taking longer than I expected. I can run it on Chrome. In case the other one is disturbing me, I can just change and I run it on Chrome. So I've stopped all the running. I want to run it again. So, so it is now launching. I always prefer editing when I'm seeing what I have so far. But sometimes Android Studio is slow. I think it is about to complete. So it is about to complete running the project. So are you seeing what we had? So that's what we had last time. I think we are seeing that screen. Hello, are you there?
Yes, we are here.
So I want to add another text field. I have the surname, the given name, the nationality, the sex, then I want to add another one there. So I'm going to add another one. So before the button, so after 6, I want to add another one there. So I want to add the text field. Let me just add their text, a text widget. And then I'll give it a title, my current level, my current level. Then below that, I'm going to add there another text field. I mean a text widget, and I'll give it level 5. Let me save that and we see how it looks like. You just press Ctrl S. There it takes few seconds and then it loads a new another updated version. So we have my current level and we have level 5. I think we are seeing that.
Yes.
But when you look at that 5, it is a fixed value. What if I want to keep changing that current level? How can we do that? Because I want a button such that whenever I click on that button, that value changes. Either it increases or it decreases. So that's why that introduces us to the stateful widget. Because we say that whenever I want values which can change, we can't use a stateless widget. We can only use a stateful widget. So I think I have answered one question, someone who asked me the use of a stateful widget. Meaning that if I want to do that, for example, I'm going to create a floating action button such that whenever I click on that button, that value changes. Because I'm assuming that my level is not static. If today it is 5, tomorrow it can be 6. So let us create a floating action button. So this is a property. A floating action button, you can create it from anywhere. It is not that you have to create it from down. I can create it from up even before the body. So after the up bar, I can create it from there. I can say floating action. That is a floating action property. And then the widget we are going to use is floating action button. That is the floating action button. And then this button has to be with the default method, which is the only pressed. So this only pressed, it is a default method because every button, you create a button because you want to press on that button. That's the use of a button. You have to click on that button and then it does something. That's why by default, you have to create that only pressed method. And then I am going to be having a child, which is, I think I can have an icon instead of having text. So I'm going to be having a child, which is an icon. And the name of that icon, it is the addition symbol, which is icons.add. So let me save that and we see how it looks like. So this will take a few seconds. I think we are seeing this button. Are you seeing this addition button, which is here?
The big blue circle.
Yes, that is a floating action button. This is the icon I've added, which is the add, that addition symbol I've just added it. That's why you are seeing icons.add. So I've added that icon inside the button. So now I want to, when I click on this button, nothing change, it does nothing. But I want to edit my level so that whenever I click on this button, my level changes. Are you trying to get what I mean?
Yes.
So if it is 5, I want when I click on this, it becomes 6. When I click on it, it becomes 7. So, and I told you that we can only achieve that if we convert our stateless widget into a stateful widget, because it is a stateful widget which can enable that change. So I'm going to click on home. It brings that candle. When I click there, it brings that option, convert to a stateful widget. Because I want to first convert this to a stateful widget, and then I can, it's now converted to a stateful widget. Are you seeing that? And then in that stateful widget, we have the object which is the home state, because the name of our class is home. That's why it is home state. And that home state object is defined from here, class home state. Are you seeing that? Are you seeing that class home state?
Yes, we can see.
So below that class, we can create our variables. For example, I'm going to press enter, and I want to create an integer. I'm going to create an integer, and I call it level. I can initiate it to 0. And we know that in coding, we always terminate with a semicolon. Whenever you create a variable, you always have to terminate with a semicolon. So I have a level which is an integer, and I have set it to be 0. But I want that whenever I click on this button, it changes. Maybe if it was 0, then it changes to 1, it changes to 2, like that. So after creating it, I think this only pressed function there.
Yes.
So I have to define something inside such that whenever I click on something, whenever I click on that button, then that value changes. So this onPressed method has a function or a method which you call the set state. This is set state. It is used to change the initial value, and it changes it depending on what you define inside that function. So it is called the set state. Yeah, I think auto-completion can show you that. I just click on enter, and then they are telling me that inside I have to define something. For example, I want that value to be increasing by 1. So meaning that it is going to be level is equal to +1. I think you know that one, that code. Some of you are used to level ++, like that. It is the same. Some of you write level is equal to level +1. The logic is still the same. So I want to set my state such that whenever I click on that button, that level increases to another value by 1. So are you getting the logic?
Yes, I understand.
So now what we have to do, because when you look at our current level, when you go down, we had set our level to be 5. So I'm looking for that part. I think that part, that text, our text, we are having 5. But I want that text not to be a fixed value. I want to remove the 5, and I set that text to be a variable. How do we achieve that? For example, when you look at, what do we use in C? In C, we use the percentage. For example, you can use the percentage this. There is the and. If you want to assign it to a variable, use and. But in that, we use a $sign. So I'm going to use a $sign, and I write the name of the variable, which is level. Are you seeing what I've done? So are you getting that?
Pardon me a little bit. I went off for a minute.
Okay, I said that. For example, in C, when you want to reference to a variable, you use the and symbol. But in that, we use a $sign. For example, I want to point to the level variable, such that instead of having a text there, I have a variable, because I know that the variable can change anytime. So that's why I've changed it to level, because at first I initiated my variable, which is level, to 0. And then in the onPressed function, I defined a method such that that level will be increasing by 1. That's why I'm having level ++.
Yes.
So where there was a 5, I changed it to level. Now I'm going to save, and we see whether our button is working. Are you saying that my current level now has become 0?
Yes, yes, it's come.
Because we initiated that variable to 0. Here we initiate that level, int level is equal to 0. meaning that our current level is 0, but we want it to change. Let me try to click on the button. It changes to 1. I click on it again, it changes to 2. I click on it, it changes to 3. I click on it again, it changes to 4. So are you trying to see that logic?
Yes, yes.
So because we are using a stateful widget, we say that when we have a stateful widget, now we can use dynamic contents. But for stateless widget, we can't do that. So that's the use of a stateful widget. We use it if you have variables in our application. That's when we use stateful widget. And you see that in most of our applications, we'll be using stateful widget. Because in most applications have values which change. So that's the use of a stateful widget. So are we together there?
Yes, we are together.
So now I want to create a new page, because I think we have observed that we have been creating single pages throughout. Now I want to create an app which has 2 pages. So down here, I'm going to create another stateful widget. Stateful, I'm going to call it page, just page. And then it is returning a container, but I want it to return a scaffold. So let me return a scaffold. Then inside my scaffold, I want to be having an app bar. So that is the property. Then the widget is also called app bar. That is the app bar widget. It is having a title, and that title is a text widget. And that text, I'm going to call it new page. Then I'm going to center. I want to center the title. Center title. This is a Boolean, so I set it to true. So I'm done with my app bar. There is a missing comma here. Then next, I'm going to give it a body. I'm going to first give it a floating action button. A floating action button. And then this button, I'm going to give it a floating action widget, which is a floating action button. And then inside this button, I have the on pressed method. So you should now be used with these things. And when you are typing the code, you should now be faster than before. And then I'm going to give it a child. And then this child is going to be a text. And then this text, I'm going to give it a text which is back. That is it. So I'm going to go back to my previous button. I want to remove this set. I want to remove what is inside this button. And I'm going to give it a child which is also text. That is a text widget. And then I'll give it the word next. I'll remove this. I'll remove the set which is inside. And I leave it to default. Let me first save and we see what we have. Control S. So I have removed the method which was inside the only pressed on this. And now I have left it blank. I have changed the child from an icon to a text which is next. I think we are seeing that change. Now on that button I have the word next. Now are you seeing that?
Yes.
Now I want when I click on that button, I want it to take me to the next page. So meaning that I'm going to define something inside, which is navigator.push. So the method I'm going to use is called the navigator.push, because I want it to push to the next page whenever I click on it. And this navigator.push is having context, and then it is having the root. So that context, you just leave it there by default. So we just define the root because you want the root of the next page. So I can take it to the next, I put a comma there. So where there is this root, I'm going to remove that root. And I define my own root. I'm going to connect it to the next page. So I'm going to use the material because we have what we call the material page root, which directs us to the root of the page you want. So we call it the material page root. So that is the widget we are going to use. And by default, this widget is having a builder. When you look at this builder, it is trying to tell us that this material.page root is going to build something which connects to the next root. That's why we have that builder, and it comes by default. And then we have the context, because we had the context here. The navigator.push takes in two variables. It takes in the context, and the context is always there by default. And then it takes in the root to the new page. And when you want to connect the root to that new page, you have to use the material page root widget. And that material page root widget has the builder, and this builder just builds the context. And then it also connects to the root of the page. So for example, when you come at this page, I created another, I think you know that I created another widget, which is a stateful widget. And its name is page. That is the name of the class. Meaning that if I want to connect to that one, I just connect it to the name of that class, which is page. Like that. I just connect it to the name of that class. And then I close this function. And when I close that function, it is now okay. Let me save and we see. So here there's some kind of logic, but you have to understand that logic, because in most of the applications we are going to be using that. For example, if I want to, when I click on login, it takes me to the next page. When I click on submit, it takes me to the next page. So you have to understand that logic, because that logic is very useful in most of the applications. So let's try to build and we see. Remaining with 4 minutes. So let me try to click on next and we see. Are you seeing that it takes me to a new page?
Yes. Yes.
And then it brings this arrow at the side. When you click on that arrow, it takes you back to the previous page. Are you seeing that? When you click on that arrow, it takes you to the previous page.
I can see even a down button saying back on the second page.
There's that button, but I'm going to leave that button as a task for you to implement a method such that when you click on back, it takes you back to the other page. The same way I've implemented this logic, which takes you to the new page, use the same logic, meaning that where there is that arrow pointing to page, that arrow should be pointing to the name of this class, which is home, because this page is called home. The other page was called page. So all the things which are inside will remain the same. What will change is that name, which is the page. This name I have highlighted. It will be the name of the class. For example, this class is called the home. It is called the home when you see that it is class home extends. So meaning that I had changed something. Where there's that page, you replace it with the home, so that when you click back, it takes you to the home page. When you click next, it takes you to the new page. I think you are trying to get that logic, huh?
Yes.
So I'm seeing some. So this one is true. So I think this will mark at the end of our today's lesson. I want you to practice that logic. The logic of taking you to another page. Actually, you can even design for yourself an application with 3 pages, such that the first, for example, I have the submit button here. You can define that method with after, so that when you click on submit, it takes you to the next page. So you can design another page, so that when you click on submit, it takes you to that page. Are you getting that logic? Yeah? So the same logic I have used is what you actually, the whole thing you are seeing here inside the only pressed from here up to here is the same thing you are going to write inside any other button if you want it to take you to the next page. So I want you to practice that logic because it is very useful.
Excuse me.
Yes.
When you press next, did the back button come automatically? Because
Yeah.
when I press next, I see next
So
again.
like when you on this page on the which I call the on this class which I call the page, I included a floating action button. It is that floating action button which has the word back. Are you seeing that?
Okay.
That here I have a floating point floating action button and is having a child with the text back. So I just created it because I wanted to put something inside such that when I click on back, it takes me back to the other previous page. So now you are seeing that now our buttons are working. Previously, we are creating buttons which are not working. So that marks the end of today's session. Tomorrow we shall start from there, and we have to look at lists tomorrow. And we shall be using stateful widgets since we used stateless widget in the previous lessons. The same thing you use with stateless, you can use them in stateful.